This is Bindu Bodanapu. Welcome to my channel, School of Consciousness. This is the part 3 of the book, The Miracles of Your Mind by Dr. Joseph Murthy. In part 1 and part 2, we have learned how the subconscious mind works. How can we use a subconscious mind to attain good health, wealth, and let go of addictions? We have also learned how to use a subconscious mind to provide guidance. In this chapter, I'm going to bring you how to overcome fears through a subconscious mind. Chapter 7: Overcoming Fear Through the Subconscious Mind. Emerson said, "Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain." There was a time when the writer of this chapter was filled with unutterable fear when standing before an audience. The way I overcame it was to stand before the audience, do the thing I was afraid to do, and the death of fear was certain. When you affirm positively that you're going to master your fears and come to a definitive decision in your conscious mind that you're going to overcome, you release the power of the subconscious, which flows in response to the nature of your thought. One of our students told me that he had invited to speak at a banquet. He said that he was panic-stricken at the thought of speaking before 1,000 people. He overcame the fear this way. For several nights, he sat down in an armchair for about 5 minutes and said to himself slowly, quietly, and positively, "I am going to master this fear. I am overcoming it now. I speak with poise and confidence. I am relaxed and at ease." He operated a definitive law of mind and overcame his fear. The subconscious mind is amenable to suggestion and controlled by suggestion. When you still your mind and relax, the thoughts of your conscious mind sink down into the subconscious through a process similar to osmosis, whereby liquids or fluids separated by a porous membrane intermingle. As these positive seeds or thoughts sink into the subconscious area, they grow after their kind, and you become poised, serene, and calm. A young lady was invited to an audition. She had been looking forward to the interview. However, on 3 previous occasions, she failed miserably due to stage fright. Here is a very simple technique which Dr. Joseph Murthy gives us. He said, "Remember, this young lady had a very good voice, but she was certain when the time came to her to sing, she would be seized with stage fright." The subconscious mind takes your fears as a request, proceeds to manifest them and bring them into your experience. On 3 previous auditions, she sang wrong notes and finally broke down. The cause, as previously outlined, was an involuntary autosuggestion. This is a silent fear, thought, emotionalized and subjectified. She overcame it by the following technique. 3 times a day, she isolated herself in a room. She sat down comfortably in an armchair, relaxed her body, and closed her eyes. She stilled the mind and body as best as she could. Physical inertia favors mental passivity and renders the mind more receptive to suggestion. She counteracted the fear suggestion by its converse, saying to herself, I sing beautifully. I am poised, serene, calm, and confident. She repeated this statement slowly, quietly, and with feeling from 5 to 10 minutes at each sitting. She had 3 such sittings every day and one immediately prior to sleep. At the end of the week, she was completely poised and confident and gave a remarkable, wonderful audition. Carry out the above procedure with assurance and conviction, and the death of fear is certain. This is a wonderful technique that Dr. Joseph Murthy gives us. This is something that we can use in our day-to-day lives. It could be presenting a presentation in a workplace, or it could be a child who's taking competitive exams, or a child who is going for an audition. This is a wonderful technique that can be applied to anyone. Occasionally, young men from the local university come to see me, and also school teachers who seem to suffer from suggestive amnesia at examinations. The complaint is always the same. I know the answers after the examination is over, but I can't remember the answers during the examination. The idea which realizes itself is the one to which we invariably give concentrated attention. I find that each one is obsessed with the idea of failure. Fear is behind the temporary amnesia and is the cause of the whole experience. One young medical student was the most brilliant in his class, yet he found himself failing to answer simple questions at the time of written or oral examinations. I explained to him that the reason was he had been worrying and fearful for several days prior to the examination. These constant negative thoughts became charged with fear, thoughts enveloped in the powerful emotion of fear and realized in the subconscious. In other words, this young man was requesting his subconscious mind to see it that he failed, and that is exactly what it did. On the day of examination, he found himself stricken with what is called the psychological circles, suggestive amnesia. A French psychologist named Bourdieu said, what we have to work for in overcoming fear is education of the imagination. Here is what the young man overcame his fear. He learned that his subconscious mind was the storehouse of memory and had perfect record of all he had heard and read during his medical trainings. Moreover, he learned that the subconscious mind was responsive and reciprocal. The way to do is to enrapport with it and to be relaxed, peaceful, and confident. So every night and morning he began to imagine his mother congratulating him on this wonderful record. He would hold an imaginary letter from her in his hand and read congratulatory words. He would also feel the letter in his hand. As he began to contemplate the happy result, he called forth a corresponding or reciprocal response or reaction in himself. The all-wise and omnipotent power of the subconscious took over, dedicated, and directed his conscious mind accordingly. He imagined the end. When he imagined and felt the end, he willed the means to the realization of the end. Following this procedure, he had no trouble passing subsequent examinations. In other words, the subjective wisdom took over, compelling him to give an excellent account to himself. The law of the subconscious mind is compulsion. There are many people who are afraid to go in an elevator, climb mountains, or even swim in water. It may well be that the individual had unpleasant experiences in the water in his youth, such as having been thrown forcefully into water without being able to swim. I had an experience when I was about 10 years of age. I fell accidentally into a pool and went down 3 times. I can still remember the dark water engulfing my head and my gasping for air until another boy pulled me out at the last moment. This experience sank into my subconscious mind for years, and I feared the water. An elderly psychologist said to me, "Go down to the swimming pool, look at the water, and say out loud in strong tones, 'I am going to master you. I can dominate you.' Then go into the water, take lessons, and overcome it." This I did. I learned that when you do the thing you are afraid to do, fear disappears. It was only a shadow of my mind when I assumed a new attitude of mind. The omnipotent power of the subconscious responded, giving me strength, faith, and confidence, enabling me to overcome. I used the subconscious mind to the point where it began to use me. Following is a process or a procedure or a technique for overcoming fear, which I teach from the platform. It works like a charm. Try it. Suppose you are afraid of the water, or a mountain, or an interview, an audition, or you fear closed places. If afraid of swimming, begin now to sit still for 5 to 10 minutes, or for 4 or following is the process and technique for overcoming fear, which I teach from the platform. It works like a charm. Try it. Suppose you're afraid of water, or mountain, an interview, an audition, or you fear closed places. If afraid of swimming, begin now to sit still for 5 to 10 minutes, for 3 or 4 times a day, and imagine you are swimming. Actually, you are swimming in your mind. It is a subjective experience. Mentally, you have projected yourself into the water. You feel the chill of the water and the movement of your arms and legs. It is all real, vivid, and joyous activity of the mind. It is not ideal daydreaming, for you know what you are subjectively experiencing in your imagination will be developed in your subconscious mind. Then you will be compelled to express the image and likeliness of the picture of your impressed on your deeper mind. This is the law of subconscious mind. As you continue to discipline your mind this way, you mentally immersed in the water and happy in it. Consequently, the fear passes. You will enter the water physically. I might say to you, will be compelled to give a good performance. You have consciously called upon the wonderful power of your subconscious, which is all wise and powerful. This power controls you and governs you accordingly to the nature of your call or request. This is a wonderful thing to know and a marvelous thing to do. The president of a large organization told me that when he was a salesman, he used to walk around the block 5 or 6 times before he called on a customer. The sales manager came along one day and said to him, "Don't be afraid of the boogeyman behind the door. There is no boogeyman, it's a false belief." The manager told him that whenever he looked at his own fears, he stared them in the face and stood up to him, looking them straight into the eyes, and they faded and shrank into insignificance. Go out now and face that thing you are afraid of. If you are afraid to take that position, take it. Say to yourself, "I can accomplish, I will succeed." You will find a corresponding emotion or feeling generated by your subconscious. You will induce the mood or feeling of confidence, faith in yourself, and the joy of accomplishment. Fear is a thought in your mind, but confidence is far more powerful thought. It fills your mind with positive, constructive feeling. And a chaplain told me one of his experiences in the Second World War. He had to parachute from a damaged plane and land in a jungle. He said he was frightened, but he knew there was two kinds of fear, normal and abnormal. Normal fear is good. It is the law of self-preservation. It is the subconscious mind telling you something must be done. It is the sort of an alarm system that tells you to get out of the way of an oncoming car. The chaplain said, "I began to talk to myself, saying, 'John, you can't surrender to your fear. Your fear is a desire for safety or security, for a way out.'" He said that he knew there was a subjective intelligence which led the birds to their food and told them where to go in summer and winter. He began to claim infinite intelligence which guides the planets in their course is now leading and guiding me out of this jungle. He kept saying this out loud to himself for 10 minutes or more. Then he added, "Something began to stir inside me. A mood of confidence began to seize me, and I began to walk. After a few days, I came out miraculously and was picked up by a rescue plane." His changed mental activity or mental attitude saved him. His confidence and trust in the subjective wisdom and power within him was the solution to his problem. He said, "Had I begun to bemoan my fate and indulge my fears, I would have succumbed to the monster fear and probably have died of fear and starvation." Whenever fear comes, go to the opposite immediately in your mind. To indulge in fear thoughts constantly and to engage your mind constantly with negative thoughts results in abnormal fear, obsessions, and complexes. To engage the mind with all the difficulties of your problem will only instill more fear within us until it assumes a size of catastrophic proportion. Finally, there comes a sense of panic and terror weakening and sickening you. You can overcome fear of this nature when you know that the power of your subconscious can always change the objective conditions. Go within, claim, and feel you're good, the solution. Know there is an infinite intelligence that responds and reacts to your thought and feeling. Imagine the end. Feel the thrill of victory. What you subjectively feel and imagine as true is the inner evidence of what will take place objectively. Your subconscious can free you. When fear thoughts come, contemplate the solution, the happy ending. Never fight negative or fearful thoughts. Always turn on the lamp of love, peace, and confidence within you. Most of our fears are imaginary. The general manager of an organization told me that he feared he would lose his position. He was always imagining failure. The thing he feared did not exist, save as a morbid, anxious thought in his mind. His vivid imagination dramatized the loss of his job until he became nervous and neurotic. Finally, he lost his position. He was asked to resign. Actually, he dismissed himself. His constant negative imagery and fear suggestions to his subconscious mind caused the latter to respond and react accordingly. It made him make mistakes and foolish decisions which resulted in his failure as a general manager. The thing this man feared did not exist. His dismissal would never have happened and had he immediately moved to the opposite in his mind. No thought or concept, constructive or negative, can ever manifest except we emotionalize such concepts. The thoughts, concepts, and ideas have to penetrate the subconscious before they can affect us for good or evil. If you look back onto your life, you will agree with the writer that most of your fears, worries, and anxieties never came to pass. The reason for this was that you did not retain them long enough. Likewise, you did not charge them with deep emotion. The general secret of banishing fear is to constantly fill your mind with constructive and positive thoughts. Fill the mind with thoughts of love, peace, and harmony. Give attention to your goal, ideal, and positives, the things you wish to experience in life. As you do this, an invisible inner movement of your subconscious mind will take place, changing your world into the likeness of your inner imagery. And during the second round, the World Lecture Tour, I had a 2-hour conversation with a prominent government official. He had a deep sense of inner peace and serenity. He said that all the abuse he receives politically from newspapers and opposition party never disturbs him. His practice is to sit still for 15 minutes in the morning and realize that in the center of himself is a deep, still ocean of peace. Meditating in this way, he generates tremendous power which overcomes all manner of difficulties and fear. Some months ago, a colleague called him at midnight and told him that a group were plotting against him. This is what he said to his colleague: "I'm going to sleep now in perfect peace. You can discuss it with me at 10 a.m. tomorrow." Now, how he was. How cool, how peaceful. He didn't start getting excited, tearing his hair, or wringing his hands. At center, he found the cool water, us inner peace, and there was a great calm. Your mind is composed of two areas, the conscious mind where we reason and the great unconscious or subconscious depth which whatever resembles the ocean into which many forgotten fears and false beliefs are lodged. I met a man who came to my hotel in New Delhi for consultation. He was from the British Isles. He had an acute sinus, a deep sense of grief, and was haunted by many unknown fears. I found in talking to him that he hated his father for many years because the father has bequeathed all the estate to his brother. This hatred developed a deep sense of guilt in his subconscious mind. Because of this guilt, he had a deep hidden fear of being punished. This complex expressed itself as migraine and sinus in his body. Fear means pain. Love and goodwill means peace and health. The fear and guilt which this man had were expressed as disease or lack of ease or peace. The mucous membranes of his nose were always inflamed. This young man realized that his whole trouble was caused by his own sense of guilt, self-condemnation, and hatred. His father had long since passed on to his higher dimension of life. Actually, he was poisoning himself through hatred. He began to forgive himself. To forgive is to give something off. He practiced saying, I complete forgive my father. He did what he believed was right according to his light. I release him. I wish him peace, harmony, and joy. I am sincere. I mean it. Then he cried for a long time. That was good. He lanced the psychic wound, and all the psychic pus came forth. His sinusitis disappeared. I have had a letter from him saying that the migraine attacks have ceased altogether. The fear of punishment, which was lurking in his subconscious mind, has now disappeared. Use this perfect formula for casting out fear. I sought the Lord, and He heard me and delivered me all my fears. The Lord is an ancient word meaning your subconscious. Learn the powers of your subconscious. Learn how it works and functions. Master the techniques given to you in this chapter. Put them into practice now, today. Your subconscious will respond and you will be free of all fears. I sought the Lord and He heard me and delivered me from all my fears. I hope you've enjoyed me reading this book and giving you a summary of this fascinating book by Dr. Joseph Murthy. If we can master how the subconscious mind works, there is no need to worry in life. Whatever you want, either it is riches, wealth, health, good relationships, or guidance, everything can be subconscious